Okay, for number 1, it asks for the value of the automobile. One thing that you need to be careful of here is this entire thing is the factor. This right here is your decay factor. So what goes in there, it tells me the decay factor is 0.07. So that goes in for all of this. So you're going to be multiplying your initial cost, which is $21,000, times times 0.07. And that's going to give you B. Number 2, it asks you how many factors are. Factors are things that are being multiplied together. Or look at it as the things in parentheses. There's 1 factor, 2 factors, 3 factors. So 2 is B. Okay, number 3. Where's 3? Okay. You've already read the problem. It tells us the number of T-shirts is S. Well, the time for each T-shirt is 12 minutes. So 12S is how long it takes you to make 12 T-shirts, plus your setup time and your breakdown time, and that has to equal 127 minutes. Oh, that should be a plus. So when you add those two together, you get 55. So 12S plus 55 is 127, and that is D. Number 4, Andrew invested $1,000 in his savings account. The interest rate R is compounded annually. Which equation shows the amount A? Well, it says it's compounded annually. Okay, so we're looking for a positive factor. So it's either you can narrow out D, and you can narrow out A, or rule out A and C because it has 1 minus and R minus. B is the only one that shows a growth. And number 5, it says if the value of Z increases by 2, what does it do to the value of this expression? So what I'm going to do is take Z and decrease it by 2. Now, 16 and negative 2 gives me 14 plus Z. Now I'm going to distribute that Y, and I have 14Y plus YZ. All right, that's my new expression. All right, this is the new expression. Now the old expression, I'm going to distribute the Y, and I have 16Y plus YZ. Now compare the two that I have boxed. My new expression is 2Y less than my old expression. So it decreases by 2Y, which is A. Number 6. This is systems of equations. The best way to do number 6 is to go through it with a process of elimination. In a system of equations, I can take this equation and multiply it by anything I want as long as I multiply it by the same thing. I could multiply 2 by AX, 2 by BY, 2 by C. I can do the same down here, multiplying everything by the same number. For example, I could multiply dx by a negative 3, EY by a negative 3, F by a negative 3. So I look at the choices. If you'll look at the first choice of all of these is the same. AX plus BY equals C. So we're looking at the second equation. So what can I do to the second equation? Well, in part A, it looks like all they've done is change the sign of EY. I can't do that. If I change the sign of one, I have to change the sign of all of them. That rules out A. On B, they added A and E together. A is with the X, E is with the Y. Those are not like terms. I can't add those two together. On C, they added A and D together. That's okay because they're both X terms. B and E together. Oh, look, they didn't add B and E. They subtracted B and E. You can't add A and D and then subtract B and E. If you're going to have a negative for this E, you've got to have a negative for all of those. So that rules out C. So that leaves only one choice, which is D. What they did here is they multiplied the bottom equation, everything by 2, and then they added them together, AX plus 2D, or AX plus 2DX, and they took out the X. Same with the rest of it. So D is your only choice there. And number 7, you're actually solving a system of equations. I prefer system of equations by elimination. I look at your 2y and y. If this were a negative 2y, I could eliminate my y's. So I'm going to multiply the first one by, or the second one by negative 2. and do nothing to the second or first one. I'm eliminating the y because it asked me to solve it for x. Oh, I need to multiply the second one by -2. So that's going to make this a -4x minus 2y equals -2. So I have -x equals 2. So x is 2, which is C. Number 8 says which statement about the solutions of the equation must be true? Okay, so this is our line. It says if the x value of a solution is positive, then the corresponding y value is negative. Well, that can't be true because right here, at that point, a and b, or x and y are both positive. The second one, if x value of a solution is negative, then the corresponding y value is positive. Okay, my x's are negative this way, and my y's are positive this way. That's true. So if it's on that line, the x's are negative and the y's are positive. Let's go through the rest of them and make sure that we don't have any, just double check it. There's no solution for which both x and y are integers. Well, that's not true. You can find integers right there. That's 4, -1. And C, there is only one solution for which both x and y are integers. No, there's many solutions where x and y are both integers. Here's one, and of course it keeps going on and on, so there's many of those. B is the only solution. Okay, number 9. We want to look at the graph of the inequality. Now, one thing I want you to notice, look at all the lines. Every one of those lines are graphed the same except for the shading and the dotted and solid lines. All right, so that'll help us to not worry if the line is graphed correctly. All right, so here, if I want to put that into slope-intercept form, it's just easier to graph it if it is, then I need to subtract the 3y from each side. Then I have -3y plus x is greater than -2, and subtract the x from each side. I have -3y is greater than -x minus 2. Now I need to divide everything by -3. You know what? That's not the easiest way to do this problem. Let me show you a different way. Let me back that up a minute. First of all, it says greater than and not greater than or equal to, so we can eliminate A and B. So the only thing I have to do is check for the shading. So let's pick a point on the graph. It doesn't matter if it's in the shaded portion or not. I'm going to pick 0, 0. So if it turns 0, 0 is not a solution to C, it is a solution to D. So let's see if 0, 0 is a solution to my inequality. Put in a 0 for x and a 0 for y, and I have 0 is greater than -2. 0 is greater than -2. That is true, which means 0, 0 is a solution, which means D is your correct answer. Okay, we're at number 10. Says this coordinate plane shows shows two functions of x. F of x is increasing. All right, so this is my linear function. This is an exponential function. It says based on the information, which statement is true for all real values of the domain where x is greater than or equal to 0? The domain, that's in quadrant 1, when your x's are greater than or equal to 0. That's what it's showing me. It's quadrant 1. It says f of x equals g of x for only one value in the domain. Okay, so if these two cross, it's saying, now notice we have arrows, so these go on and on and on. If they do cross, will they cross only one time? That's the question it's asking me. B, it says f of x is equal to g of x for many values. So if they cross, are they going to cross more than once? C says f of x is greater than g of x always. F of x is greater than g of x here, but remember this keeps going. And an exponential increases more rapidly, so eventually g of x is going to be greater than f of x. It's just not greater than what they're showing. The only one that would be true is A. If those two cross, they're only going to cross one time. All right, that was number 10. Number 11, it gives us two functions, and we want to know which of these linear functions has a slope greater than the slope for function 1 and less than the slope for function 2. All right, so I need to find the slope of function 1 and function 2. So to find the slope, I'm going to use my slope formula. You can choose any 2 points you would like. I'm going to choose these 2 points. So this is my x1, x2, y1, y2. So I have 7 minus 5 over 2 minus 1, and that gives me 2. Same thing over here. This is my x1, x2, y1, y2. So 2 minus negative 1 over 2 minus 1. That gives me 3. All right, now let me read the question again. Which of these functions has a slope greater than the slope for function 1? So I want something greater than 2 and less than the slope for function 2, so less than 3. All right, the slope here is 1.5. That's not greater than 2. This slope for B is 2. That's not greater than 2. 2.5 is greater than 2, and it's less than 3. So we were looking at the slopes of each of those. So C is your correct answer. Number 12 wants to know which of these is an exponential decay. All right, so first of all, look at A, B, C, and D. A is decreasing, so your f of x's are decreasing. B is decreasing. C is decreasing. And D is increasing, so I can rule out D. Now I need to know which one of these is exponential. Exponential means I multiply to get from term to term. Okay, let me start down. I have to multiply the same thing to get from term to term. Well, looking at B, it looks like I'm adding 10, then I add 20, then I add 30. That's not exponential. Looking at C, I can't multiply anything by 80 to get 76, and so forth. But look at A. You might look at A and say, well, they're dividing. Dividing by 3. 81 divided by 3 is 27. 27 divided by 3 is 9. 9 divided by 3 is 3. Yes, they are dividing, but dividing by 3 is the same as multiplying by the reciprocal, which is 1/3. So A is your choice. 13. A rectangular field is 100 meters in width, 120 meters in length. The dimensions of the field will be expanded by x meters in each direction as shown in the diagram. Okay, so that means from here to here is 120. And this is x as well as that. So that entire side, including the walkway, would be 120 plus 2x. Now on the next one, from here to here is 100. This is x as well as this. So that gives us 100 plus 2x. Now when you find the perimeter is adding all the sides together. So you're going to have to add each of these twice because you have to take into consideration you've got both sides. So 120 plus 2x, 120 plus 2x, and then the other side is 100 plus 2x and 100 plus 2x. So that gives us 2, 4, 6, 8x, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 40. So that is D. 14. Which function shares at least one point with the function represented by the equation y equals 2 to the x power? Okay, y equals 2 to the x power is, it goes through, if I put in a 0 there, I'm going to get out a 1. So 0, 1 is part of the graph. And it looks something like this. So I want to know which one of these would cross that. All right, so x equals y is the line that goes through the origin where all the x's and the y's are the same. All right, that's x equals y. All right, that does not cross that. X equals negative y, which is part B, is the equation that goes through the origin this way. And how many times does it cross? One time. So your answer is B. Okay, 15. Oh, you didn't have 15, 16, 17, or 18. So we're going to skip over to 19. Okay, it says a train travels from Chicago to Los Angeles The points graphed on this coordinate grid show the distance the train was from Los Angeles after each of the first 8-hour trips. Okay, the linear regression model for the data is given as d of t equals negative 58t plus 188. And let me see, what am I asked to do? Based on the regression model, which is the best estimate for the total time it took the train to travel the entire distance? Okay. After train traveled, points graphed, grid. Okay, so the train will reach its destination when the distance is 0. So you're going to set this equal to 0 and solve. So I'm going to add the 58t to each side. And I have 58t equals 1888. And then divide by 58. And it says about, what is it? And you get about 32.55, which is about 33. And the last one, number 20. Okay, we're trying to estimate the correlation coefficient for this one. It's going down, so that definitely eliminates D and C. And they're pretty tight. This is a pretty tight correlation. The tighter it is, the closer it is to 1 or negative 1. In this case, negative 1. So negative 0.9 is closer to negative 1.